All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, who says that can't go home? The reason why I bring this up is for New York Jets head coach Rex Ryan. It might be true. So, yesterday, Rex Ryan was interviewed by his former employer for their current head coaching vacancy, nearly a decade after the same franchise and the same team owner, Woody Johnson, sent them on his way. Now, Ryan currently works for ESPN as a football analyst, and he's recently been using that platform to lobby to get his old job back. And at the very least, he's gotten the attention of his former boss and Woody Johnson. Now, so far, Ryan is not the only person who has interviewed to be the Jets' next head coach, as the franchise just interviewed former Tennessee Titans head coach Mike Vrabel last Friday, as well as former Carolina Panthers and Washington Commanders head coach Ron Rivera. But right now, we're talking about Rex Ryan, and the question for me to you is, right, for the Jets to bring Rex back to Florham Park? Now, I'll give credit where credit is due. Nobody out there is probably more passionate about being the head coach of the Jets than Rex Ryan, but that doesn't mean that he's qualified to go out there and do the job. Let's backtrack, for a moment here, if you will. Rex had 6 years as the head coach of the Jets. His record during that time was 46 and 50. And of course, the highlights were getting the Jets to the AFC Championship game of each of his first 2 seasons. But after 2010, Ryan never had another winning season with the Jets or in the NFL for that matter. We saw Rex after he was let go by the Jets. He went to the Buffalo Bills in 2015, and in less than 2 years in Western New York, the Bills had seen enough and sent him packing. Of course, he didn't have a winning record there either. And honestly, another question for me to you is, outside of Rex's first 2 seasons with the Jets, what has he done or what did he do in the NFL as a head coach? Now, Rex is a defensive coach. Of course, he was a defensive assistant with the Baltimore Ravens when they won their first Super Bowl championship in 2000. And of course, he went on to become their defensive coordinator in the mid 2000s. But going back to his time with the Jets, and of course, it was him and Mike Tannenbaum at first as his general manager. You go back and you look at the first round picks under Rex with the New York Jets, with the exception of Mark Sanchez. All of those picks were used in the first round on defensive players. You got, and you could ask yourself, how did those guys work out? You got Kyle Wilson, Muhammad Wilkerson, Quentin Coples, D. Milner, Sheldon Richardson, and Calvin Pryor, all defensive players. And all of those defensive players, all of those players, period, that I've just mentioned, that were drafted in the first round by the Jets during the time that Rex Ryan was there, including Mark Sanchez. Only Muhammad Wilkerson got a second contract from the team. Now, you go to Rex's time with the Buffalo Bills. Okay. In 2015, Rex Ryan inherited a Bills defense that the year before led the NFL in sacks with 54, but finished 31st in that category in 2015 under Rex with just 21. Now, we talk about Rex being a defensive coach, doing his thing on the defensive side of the football. We give him credit for being the defensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens in the mid 2000s, but no disrespect, but it's great to be it's easy to be a great defensive coordinator when you're talking about you got Ray Lewis at middle linebacker, Ed Reed at free safety, Haloti Nada at nose tackle, and you've got T Sizzle, Terrell Suggs as an outside linebacker. Two of those guys are in the Hall of Fame, and the other two guys, there's a good possibility that they're going to be there as well. Now, yes, Rex almost talked the Jets to a Super Bowl, but that was nearly 15 years ago. And I'll ask anybody, what were you doing 15 years ago in comparison to right now? Okay. for me, the question is going to be, has the game passed Rex Ryan by? And I think so, because you figure Rex Ryan last coached in the National Football League in 2016. A lot has changed in the NFL between now and then. I think Rex is in his best spot when it comes to football. He truly does love the game, but I think his best spot is on TV because he gets to talk smack like he did as a coach. But you know what? He don't have to worry about backing it up on a Sunday to Sunday basis like he did before. So you think about Rex's first time around with the Jets, and his focus that time was on Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and the New England Patriots, who were never focused on him. Yeah, I know he did get a playoff victory over Bill Belichick in the divisional round in 2010, but you figure that was probably the last highlight that Rex had in the NFL as a head coach, and since then, Belichick and Brady together went on to win three more Super Bowl championships, had multiple trips to the Super Bowl, and of course, that Patriots dynasty continued. TFX, what's going on, my man? You're saying, do you think he should just be a DC? Well, I'm not even sure if Rex, is going to come back to be a DC at this point because I really do feel the game has passed him by. I truly do. I mean, he's been out of it for so long. There's a new wave of head coaches, this, that, and the third. I truly do think, that you know, he's in his perfect spot right now, being on television. The Ryan family, they're at their best when they were defensive coaches. You think about Buddy Ryan with that historic Bears defense, okay? And even before that, a lot of people don't know this. Buddy Ryan worked with the Minnesota Vikings in the mid 70s, and the Vikings had some phenomenal defenses over that time. Buddy started off, strong, as a head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles before he fizzled out. Tried to, reignite it with the Arizona Cardinals, went nowhere there. And, we've seen Rob Ryan fizzle out as a defensive coordinator after a while, and the same thing was with Rex. So again, I just think the game has simply passed Rex Ryan by, in my opinion. Okay, you think about it. Rex's mouth, and of course, when Rex was the head coach of the Jets, he never met a microphone that he didn't like, which was, a field day for the beat writers of the local papers in New York and New Jersey at that time. But let's go back to 2011, if you will. Rex's mouth helped to spark the wrong New York team on a Super Bowl run. And I'm talking about the Giants. You go back to, I think it was week 16 that year. And the Jets and Giants both came into that game with a record of 7-7. The Giants were still alive for their division. The Jets were still alive for a division crown as well. And all you heard from Rex was, you know what? Since I've been here, we've been the better team. You go back. I remember the Jets covering up the Giants murals at MetLife Stadium, in spite of the fact that the Jets and Giants do share that stadium. And you know what? Giants went on to win that game. Of course, that game was highlighted by the big touchdown catch and run by Victor Cruz, a 99-yard touchdown pass, sparked the Giants. They kept going on en route to winning a Super Bowl at the end of that season, and of course, the rest is history. Rex, to his credit, he still has the same confidence that he did when he was a head coach of the Jets. Don't think that's going to go away, but he's currently on television, basically talking like he's got the job and what he's going to do about Aaron Rodgers and stuff. Who even knows if Aaron Rodgers is going to be with the Jets next year, or if he's going to play football for that matter? Period. Okay. For me though, if I were the Jets, and clearly I'm not, and I'm not running things there, I wouldn't touch Rex Ryan with a 10-foot pole. Okay. But a reunion to me would make perfect sense because the Jets under Woody Johnson are a clown show. And I think the fact that they even interviewed a guy who they let go 10 years ago tells me everything I need to know about the Jets organization. As if everything else that we haven't seen, recently was not bad enough to begin with. I mean, we're talking about a failed marriage from 10 years ago. And what makes you think that it's going to be different, this time around? Husband and wife get married, it don't work out. 10 years they try to come back and reconcile and all that other jazz. And you know what? You're going to find out it's still the same person. Rex is still going to be the same guy as a head coach. Woody Johnson is going to be the same guy as a team owner, the meddling guy who simply doesn't know what he's going to do. And Rex is only going to go out there and talk. Football is about X's and O's, and Rex ain't a good X and O guy. It's the bottom line. So to me, bringing Rex back would be the modern day reunion of George Steinbrenner and Billy Martin with the New York Yankees. Of course, anybody who was in that area at that time knows what I'm talking about. But think about it: Billy Martin, his best run, as Yankees manager was during his first run. Every single time that George Steinbrenner brought him back, it was a little bit worse than it was the previous time. So who in the world thinks that Rex is going to go out there and do it after he was shown the door by the Jets 10 years ago? His 2 years in Buffalo were a joke. And of course, the rest is history. So the question is going to be, will Woody Johnson do the unthinkable and bring Rex Ryan back? I wouldn't be surprised at this point because of the fact that he interviewed him. Remember, the Jets interviewed Rex Ryan and they didn't interview Bill Belichick, who actually did reach out to him. The guy who's won 6 Super Bowl championships. That's all you need to know right there. Now, they've also interviewed Mike Vrabel. I don't think Mike Vrabel is coming to the Jets. Mike Vrabel at this point has his pick of the litter. He got the Bears, he's got the Jets, he's got the Patriots, and don't write off the Las Vegas. Almost said Los Angeles, but don't write off the Las Vegas Raiders as far as going out there and making a push for Mike Vrabel. He's a patriot at heart. We get it, but you look at who's running things out there for that Raiders organization in Vegas, and it's none other than Tom Brady, his former teammate. Okay, so I think the Raiders could make a legit push at Vrabel. The Jets ain't on that list. Okay, Ron Rivera Ron Rivera at this point is almost as laughable as Rex Ryan. I think the game has passed Ron Rivera by as well. He had his best run in Carolina. Did, get Washington to the postseason once, but there was never any sizzle there, if you will, as well. Okay. And I think it's also a joke, in my opinion, for the Jets to go out there and be interviewing head coaches or head coaching candidates and you still haven't even gotten a general manager yet. So the Jets have a ton of issues. And people are like, well, Rex would be good for Sauce Gardner. He would be good for Sauce Gardner. He would be good for some of those defensive guys. But still, you've got to go out there and figure things out on offense. You've got to captivate and bring together the entire team. And when Rex had his biggest success with the Jets in 2009 and 2010, it was a couple of things at the forefront. He did it for the most part, with the guys that he inherited. And I'm talking about Eric Mangini's guys. And Eric Mangini, I know it didn't end well for him with the Jets. I don't think he got enough credit for the development of that roster that he had started. That's number one. Rex also did it in 2010 with a lot of veterans who were on the last years of their contracts or basically taking 1 year contracts after other teams thought they were done. He brought in the likes of LaDainian Tomlinson from the Chargers, bringing in Santonio Holmes, Antonio Cromartie, and so many others. Okay, you can't just simply go back and keep trying to catch lightning in a bottle like that. You've got to be able to draft and develop guys. We saw the regression of Mark Sanchez, throughout his time as the Jets quarterback. And in my opinion, a lot of that was due to the fact that, hey, at first, when Mark Sanchez got there, the Jets had a top 5 defense. They also had a top 5 running game. Made it easy for the guy. Those things regressed, and so did Mark Sanchez. TFX, you're saying you think Vrabel's going to the Patriots. I think they moved Mayo out to make space for him. But Changus, what's going on, my brother? You're saying Vrabel is definitely going to the Patriots. Jetted out. What's going on, my man? You're talking about Thomas Jones. I'm going to touch on all 3 of those things. Just hang tight. TFX, I'm going to start with you. I'll tell you like this. I think the Jets interviewing Vrabel on Friday, help to kind of push the Patriots narrative there, if you will, because I feel like the Crafts did not want Mike Vrabel to go to the Jets, and I don't think he's going to the Jets. It's probably at this point, the Patriots, in my opinion, would be the front runners. But I'm telling you, do not count out the Las Vegas Raiders with Tom Brady calling the shots out there. But Changus, you're saying Vrabel is definitely going to the Patriots, and jet it out. You brought up a great point, Thomas Jones. Listen, those Jets teams, they ran the football. 2009, Thomas Jones was a beast for the Jets. And then we saw it with LT in 2010, and we saw it with that defense. We saw it with that offensive line. And offensive line, for the most part, that was brought in by Mangini. You think about some of the anchors on that O line. You talk about the Brickashaw Ferguson at tackle. You also talk about Nick Mangold at center. But again, Rex missed on so many guys, especially on the defensive side of the football, and that's supposed to be his specialty. And for me, one of the biggest signs where you couldn't trust Rex was the fact that, hey, this guy went to Buffalo after that and inherited a team that led the NFL in sacks the year before with 54. And in his first year in Buffalo, not only did that Bills pass rush get worse, it was near the bottom. They only had 21 sacks, and this is supposed to be a Rex specialty. And now you think you want to turn around and give this guy the keys to the castle again? I think it's a joke. I truly think it's a joke. But at the end of the day, it fits in line with the New York Jets. You're talking about a franchise, and I think this is why Woody Johnson might do it. We're talking about a franchise that has not made the playoffs since 2010. We talk about Rex's last moment in the sun, if you will, being 2010. What have the Jets done since then either? And I'll ask any of you, just think back to where and what you were doing in the year 2010 for you to get an idea as to where the Jets franchise was then. Okay, you think about it. Reebok still had the NFL apparel contract, not Nike. Okay, the Raiders were still in Oakland. The Chargers were still in San Diego. The Rams were still in St. Louis. Okay, and not only were the Raiders still in Oakland, they still shared that stadium with the A's. So we're talking about baseball and football sharing the same venue. Okay, Patrick Mahomes wasn't even, I don't even think he was in college at that time. Okay. Your top quarterbacks at that time in the NFL, not in any exact order: Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, who was about to play his last game with the Colts. Aaron Rodgers was about to win his first and only Super Bowl championship, and also in the 2010 season. Brett Favre was still in the NFL. So that gives you an idea, okay, as to how long ago this was. Um, you're saying it was the Tim Tebow move by Rex for me. Wow. You know what? I forgot about that. I really did. And that Tim Tebow debacle, if you want to call it that, was a disaster from the word go. We're going to bring in Tim Tebow to be a special teams specialist. Okay, I never saw a situation where the quote unquote backup quarterback is going to go out there and have a press conference, have an introductory press conference. And the thing is, why trade for a quarterback if you're not going to play him? But again, I think it goes hand in hand with the New York Jets. And like I said, they continue to be a joke, and they're going to continue to be a joke, especially as long as Woody Johnson owns this team. I said it a couple of times this week, and I'm going to continue to say it, and I'll use it on this platform right now. We talk about all of these moves that are going on in the NFL right now. We've seen some head coaches get fired questionably. In recent days, we've seen some front office personnel get let go recently, questionably as well. But the bottom line is, and this is easier said than done, the owner's got to be held accountable. I mean, you're not going to take the team away from them. No, you're not going to fine them. You're not going to take away draft picks because they run things. I get it. But they're the guys who make these decisions. Woody Johnson, and the focus with the Jets here. Woody Johnson continues to make bonehead decisions. Okay, you go back to this past season for the Jets. Woody Johnson pushed the panic button after the Jets lost in over in England to the Minnesota Vikings. He felt like he was going to show off his fancy New York team, if you will, in front of his buddies from the UK. That didn't work out. He fired Robert Saleh, hoping that would provide a spark for the Jets, and it did the exact opposite. The Jets did not respond well to the Robert Saleh firing. That defense, where Robert Saleh developed and brought all of those guys in, they didn't respond after that. Okay, Aaron Rodgers has been a disaster for the most part with the Jets. They went out there, they brought in Devontae Adams, the Green Bay teammate, the Taco Bell guy, whatever you want to call him. That didn't work out. You went and got Hassan Reddick from the Philadelphia Eagles. That didn't work out. And as talented as Hassan Reddick is, there's a reason why he's played for so many different teams in recent years. The Jets continue to be a joke. There's no nice way to say it. Pachangas, you're saying you actually think Rex would be a good defensive coach only if he lets the GM do his job and not interfere. The question is, will the Jets find the GM that could draft good players? That's the problem right there. It's the Jets. And again, for me, if I'm the Jets, I'm interviewing the GM first, and then I'm letting the GM bring in his guy. Okay. And we know that Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, he's going to be a hot pick or like a hot commodity during this hiring cycle. I don't think Ben Johnson touches the Jets. The other Lions coordinator that might get a job, a former Jet pick, and Aaron Glenn, would he work out? I don't know. Maybe the Jets need to go for a more offensive minded side coach, that side of the ball, to try to develop things. I'm not sure. But the thing is, they got to stay away from Rex. You're saying also find an offensive head coach that can lead his team, maybe in the Lions staff. So, of course, great minds think alike. I just said that. And you're saying I make a point, a good point. Let the GM, find his staff. You got to. Very rarely in the NFL does it work out hiring the head coach and then getting the GM. With the Chargers, they hired Jim Harbaugh last year and then they got the GM. But Jim Harbaugh has enough stroke where he can have a say in personnel decisions, and you're basically bringing in the GM to work with him. That was the same case when Mark Davis brought John Gruden back to the Raiders, and it looked like it was starting to work, before Gruden was let go. But at the end of the day, Gruden and Harbaugh, in my opinion, they got more stroke in this thing than Rex. Rex, no, I mean, I know that some people are clamoring for it. I think the only people that would benefit from Rex Ryan coming back to the Jets would be the sports writers in New York because they loved Rex because he was a soundbite waiting to happen. He never met a microphone and a camera that he didn't like. That's why I think he's perfect for ESPN. He's not a guy that you should entrust in leading your NFL team. And my other thing is this. Let's go back to that introductory press conference with Rex when he became the Jets head coach in 2009. First thing he basically said was he wasn't there to kiss Bill Belichick's rings. Bill Belichick ain't coaching in the NFL no more. So who are you going to go out there and start stuff with? It ain't going to be Mike McDaniel in Miami. It ain't going to be Sean McDermott in Buffalo. Okay, so and what are you going to do? You're going to poke fun at the New England Patriots right now? No, this is not the WWE. It's not UFC. It's not boxing. You're not going to go out there and run your mouth to sell tickets. People are going to show up to the games regardless. The bottom line is you need to go out there and win. You need to go out there and produce. And you know, Jet fans might give you the benefit of the doubt for like a game or two, but they're disgruntled enough as it is. They want to see wins. Okay, that's the bottom line. They want to see wins. It's a what have you done for me lately business, as is all professional sports. Uh, I think Rex's time is done. Okay, and I'm not going to sit up here and beat a dead horse on it, but I will tell you this: if the Jets go out there and make that move to go ahead and hire Rex, I think you can go ahead and pencil them in to be picking in the top 10 of the NFL draft for at least the next 3 seasons, if not more. That's how bad that I think this is going to be. The game has completely passed him by. Bringing Rex Ryan back, okay, is like telling somebody that Hammer Pants are going to once again be in vogue. And if anybody remembers Hammer Pants when they were in style, that was a different era. Okay, it ain't happening right now for Rex and the Jets. They do need a new head coach. They do need a new voice, but they need not go back to an old one. That's just my take on it. But folks, I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in to this 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. If you like what you saw and heard on this podcast, please feel free to hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. The support, I can't tell you how much the support truly means. Also, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'd be my pleasure to follow you right back. Also, before I talk about other social media platforms, listen, I got plenty to talk about this month, and I have been talking, plenty this month in the world of football, not just the NFL, college. There's a lot going on in college right now. We're down to the semis in the college football playoff. I think we're going to get two good games over the next 2 nights: Penn State and Notre Dame tomorrow night, and then of course Ohio State and Texas on Friday before we get the national championship game on the 20th. So definitely stay in tune to this channel for that as well. We've got the playoffs in the National Football League kicking off this Saturday, a doubleheader Saturday, triple header on Sunday, and then of course the Monday night affair. For the last wild card game of the first round. So definitely keep your eyes and ears peeled because I got plenty to talk about those games once they happen. Pachangis, my brother, as always, it's a pleasure. TFX, thank you for the support. Jet it out. I love that new Jet jersey in the background with one Garrett Wilson. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out for that young man because I think Garrett Wilson has all of the talent in the world to be one of the top receivers in the National Football League. It's just going to be interesting, in my opinion, to see who's throwing him the football for Gang Green next season. I talked about checking me out on Twitter. You can also check me out on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. It's, to me, one of the best sports debating sites going on social media. So if you're on Facebook, definitely check it out. And as always, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.